The eyes may be the window to the soul, but the mouth is the door. Every word that comes out of it shows the world my very core. The words that I use can heal or destroy. They can bring about sorrow, or they can bring about joy. My words can tell lies if that's what I choose. But if I want to walk in love, my words should always give truth. The Lord advises to be slow to speak because the tongue is a fire, and I know that fanning the flames is the devil's desire. So every day is a choice to let the Lord guide my speech. If I let him do this, then his kingdom is within my reach. Lord, please guard the door of my soul. Keep my lips under your service, and heaven my goal.
So, word to the wise, don't leave your program up here because you don't know when you're supposed to get up. Thank you, Leanne. All right, so let's look at lesson number 2. All right, so our lesson 2, now that we got all the hard stuff out the way, so to speak, writing this lesson, I learned that I struggle with, how do I say it? Not encouragement so much, maybe encouragement. I do a lot better at rebuking correction than I do finding good things to be like, hey, do this. So, bear with me, because at the end of the day, I said, I'm just going to take the lesson that the Bible gives me. And that may seem more correction, but bear with me, okay? So, let's start in Proverbs 25, verse 11. Proverbs 25, verse 11. Many of us probably already know this word by heart. It says, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. We all like gold and silver, right? Proverbs 10, 19, and 20. The next one. Proverbs 10, 19, and 20. Says, in the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. The tongue of the just is as choice silver. The heart of the wicked is little worth. So in these verses we're taught that just and fitly spoken words hold great value, while those words of the wicked hold little value. It also says, in the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. Here we're reminded of the principle found in our main text, that we should choose our words carefully and wisely. We should set that watch. We should set that door, that we should not let words just flow unchecked from our lips, that we need to pay attention to what comes out. So, let's start with Ephesians 4:29. I guess not start, we already started, but Ephesians 4:29. When I seen the program this morning and seen that Charlene was going to read this verse, I said that's perfect, because that's where we're going. And when I said that I took the lesson that the Bible gave me, it came from here. So, Ephesians 4:29 says, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good, to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. We're going to drop down a few verses, and we're going to add verses 31 and 32. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. So, Paul says, I want you to let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth, and I want you to edify. Well, how do you do that? Well, verse 31 tells you how to let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth, and verse 32 will tell you how to edify. So, we covered the bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking in our last lesson, but I still wanted to read it because we didn't even come to this verse, but yet we were able to cover all that. The unity of the Bible is amazing to me sometimes. And please understand that these commandments can be found throughout the Bible. I'm not just some mom up here telling everybody what to do. Please don't take it that way. This is God's will straight from His word that He told men to tell us so that we would know what to do to be pleasing to Him. And I hope that through these lessons you can see that. The whole of man, literally, our purpose is to fear God and keep His commandments. But we need to do that not only in deed, but also in our words. So, do you remember our cup? We've gotten rid of the dirt, so now we're going to fill it with our clean water, or our words. Let's jump down to verse 32 in the same context. It says, "And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you." So Paul, through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, is revealing God's will to us. And he says that this is the will of God, that you let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth. But instead of corrupt communication, that which is good to the use of edifying, that may minister grace unto the hearers. In verse 32, he tells us how to do that. He tells us how to use words that edify. And that's the whole point of our lesson, right? That the words that flow from our lips can build up and encourage. Edify literally means to build up. So our verse is very applicable because he's telling us how to do this. So Strong's definition, I did look up the word edify there. And I looked at the Strong's definition, and they had a definition there, a phrase that I really liked. It said, edifying was the act of one who promotes another's growth in Christian wisdom, piety, happiness, and holiness. How wonderful would it be for that to be our goal? For our goal is to promote each other's growth, to promote each other's happiness and their Christian wisdom, their holiness, their piety. I think that would make God very pleased. I think that would be a wonderful goal to have. So, you've heard it said that our number one goal is to get to heaven. And our number two goal is to take as many with us to heaven as we can. This is kind of redundant, but okay. So, we always think about evangelism being the world. But what if we started the evangelism within the church? What if we built up the church from within? What if we used our words? Because women, we have a lot of them. We're known for calling our girlfriend on the phone and chatting with them. Maybe I shouldn't call her girlfriend. Our friends on the phone and chatting with them. We're known for, how many ladies have you walked around the park with and talked while your kids played? You know, we use our words day in and day out. Like, we can use those for good, not just nonsense, not just, hey, what'd you have for dinner? But we can use them for good. All right, so the first part of 32 says that we can do that through kind words. It says, and be ye kind one to another. It seems simple enough, right? But it's more than just don't be mean. It's, are we purposefully kind? Are we choosing words? Are we choosing our words? Like, deliberately, purposefully choosing our words before they come out of our mouth. So I have a question. What statement would be more encouraging to you? We're going to use everyone's favorite topic, the weather. So it's nice to see the sun today because you get about March and the sun comes out and you're like, I didn't know you existed still. It's nice. Let me not lean on that anymore. Okay, So it's nice to see the sun today. Or what if we thought about our words and purposefully said, I'm so glad that the nicest weather today that we could get together. I always enjoy hanging out with you. What if we just tell people that we appreciate them? Telling people that we appreciate them, even just their company. It doesn't have to be, I appreciate you giving me a ride to services, or I appreciate you having dinner with me, but literally just, I appreciate your company. That can make a world of difference to people. And that one example is a simple way to change a neutral statement that you're just frivolous words and changing it to something that will build somebody up, that will encourage somebody. Everybody likes to be appreciated. I promise. They do. And we don't know what anyone else is going through. Somebody could be struggling with something that you have no idea. And somebody could be struggling with something that happened 10 years ago, but it's weighing heavy on them that day. And you saying that can literally make a difference. So it's truly amazing what a simple, kind word can do to encourage someone. When I was putting this lesson together, this is cry number 2 coming. When I was putting this lesson together, I remembered some advice and encouragement from a seasoned Christian lady that she gave me. She asked me how the lesson was going, putting it together. And I said, well, I've got a lot of stuff, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to put it together to where it will be comprehensible, I guess. And she said, use Bible examples and use personal examples. Remind them that God said so and make it personal. So this is example number 2. So I asked myself, when have I most been encouraged by a simple, kind word? And I instantly knew without a doubt what that was, because I'm still reaping the benefits of that today, years later. It was right after we moved, I took my water, to the Kansas City area. It was September of 2020. And I'm sure we can all remember how discouraging 2020 was. The lack of fellowship, the lack of seeing people. It was not a good time. I had been a Christian and preacher's wife for 3 years. I was trying to find my footing. I was still floating, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. Because we got married and I was a preacher's wife instantly. So so our first work had just ended, definitely not favorable. I was spiritually drained and empty. That work just was not good for us. And I don't remember the occasion, because when you find out who it is, you'll understand. It's so casual and completely normal for this sister to do this. But one day, Miss Leah Thrasher greeted me with a hello, friend. And in a time that I felt so invisible and lost in this big area where everyone was already so close. You guys are family. You've known each other. You've grown up together. You've had this fellowship for years. That one little word, friend, meant so much to me. Just to know that I'm not alone. I have someone else there for me was incredibly encouraging. She could have just said hello and went about her day, but she didn't. She purposed to use kind words. She purposefully said friend. Let's turn to Proverbs 16:24. That went better than I expected. Proverbs 16:24. I'm hoping I haven't broken y'all's pulpit. Oh. So Proverbs 16:24 says, "Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones." That pleasant word, it was that. It was sweet to my soul. It was the encouragement that I needed. And she probably didn't know that I was struggling. And so let's go back to Ephesians 4:32. Ephesians 4:32. Galatians, Ephesians. It says, "And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted." Tender-hearted here carries the same meaning. Excuse me. Nothing like wiping your nose on YouTube Live. Tender-hearted here carries the meaning of having strong bowels or being compassionate. I do want to turn to 1 Peter 3:8. Because I was like, where else is this word tender-hearted used? And this is where it took me. 1 Peter 3:8. It says, "Finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one of another. Love as brethren, be pitiful, and be courteous." So that word there, you would think it would be the compassion, right? It's not. It's being pitiful. That same Greek word that was translated tenderhearted back in Ephesians is found here translated pitiful. When we speak to others, we need to be full of pity, but not in a sense of, I'm going to take pity on you, maybe, but in a sense of being considerate, being thoughtful of what other people are going through. Sometimes words that come out of our mouth are not considerate of other situations. I have an example here, and while those experiences that people have that may have changed their perspective, while they don't justify sins, they do change people's perspective, like it or not. They do change people's demeanor towards things. So, say we have a sister in Christ who lost a loved one to COVID. And while the loss does not justify them having a lack in God, it does change the way they see that illness. So we may find ourselves in a conversation around others about COVID in 2020. We may make statements such as, "They made such a big deal out of it for money. It's just the same as the flu. I had it and it wasn't that bad." How many times have you heard that? But while some of those statements may hold true, were we tenderhearted to that sister that was with us that did lose a loved one to COVID? How do you think that would make her feel hearing those things? Are we considering the people around us and what they've been through? Are we being patient with them? Again, just stopping and thinking about our words before they come out. Did we consider our sister like God commanded us to in Hebrews 10:24 when he said, "Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works"? Those statements are not going to provoke that sister to love. They're not going to provoke her to good works. It's not going to be an encouragement. It's not going to build her up. It's rather going to do the opposite. That word "fitly spoken," again, does it need to be said? That may not be the time to say that. If it's true, I understand, but say it not around that sister. Be considerate of your audience. Let's look at Proverbs 15:23. Proverbs 15:23. I realize now that I line these verses up, old, new, old, new, old, new. So we have to go back and forth. Proverbs 15:23. "A man hath joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good is it?" In due season, we can say those words, but we need to be considerate of those around us. Let's turn to 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. And we're going to read verses 5-7. "For neither at any time used we flattering words, as ye know, nor a cloak of covetousness. God is witness. Nor of men sought we glory, neither of you, nor yet of others, when we might have been burdensome as the apostles of Christ. But we were gentle among you, even as a nurse cherisheth her children. So Paul here is saying that they were apostles. They could have been firm, so to speak, but they didn't. And they didn't use flattering words. They didn't say, hey, look at us, we're apostles. They didn't say, we're apostles, it's okay if you do that. They didn't look for personal gain in their choosing their words, but instead they were gentle and they showed compassion. If you think like as a nurse cherisheth her children, like as you would, I'm not saying baby each other, but be gentle. We don't have to always say it as it is. We don't have to always use harsh words. We shouldn't use harsh words. But again, just consider your audience and consider what people have been through and show compassion through that. Okay. Back to Ephesians 4:32. Hey, look, we're already in the New Testament. Ephesians 4:32. So it says, and be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. That is our third part. So we can absolutely encourage and build each other up through words of forgiveness. How do we know that? Well, the Bible just told us so. God gives us a great and true account of this in action in Genesis. To be respectful of time, we're not going to read the whole thing, but it really spans from like Genesis 37 to the end of the book. We are going to read some of it. Let's start in Genesis 41:38. Genesis 41:38. So here we're going to read about Joseph. Joseph was his father's favorite. And because of this, his brothers sold him into slavery, which ultimately landed him in Egypt. I'm really glad my siblings didn't do that to me. There, Joseph was tempted by Potiphar's wife. He did what was right, and he resisted temptation. He was thrown into prison for this. Though, through that, Joseph was blessed. So we're going to read verses 38 through 41. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, forasmuch as God hath shown thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto thee, Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. So, Joseph's brothers hated him so much, they sold him into slavery. But God blessed him, and now he's second in command over Egypt. Let's jump to verse 57. Okay, in all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? And he said, behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt, stopping at verse 3. So Joseph's brothers are headed to Egypt to buy corn because they don't have any. Let's go to Genesis 45, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5. I know it's a lot of reading, but I tried to cut it down as much as I could. 1 through 5, in chapter 45. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. And he wept aloud, And the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now, therefore, be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life. So, Okay, so Joseph here not only showed that compassion that we talked about in our last point, that tenderheartedness, but he also showed forgiveness. There's many details and lessons that we skipped over in the account of Joseph. If you have never read that, please go back and read it. There's so much to be learned there, and they're literally just hidden in plain sight if we just read it. Joseph's forgiveness was a blessing to more people than what I believe to be measurable. Just imagine if he didn't forgive his brethren. Imagine if he didn't give them corn. If he was bitter and said, you sold me into slavery. What makes you think I'm going to give you corn? But he didn't. He forgave his brethren. But what offenses are we not willing to forgive? Have we ever been sold into slavery? What small, minor, maybe even big things are we not willing to forgive? And that brings us right to the last part of our verse. Let's go back to Ephesians 4:32 one last time. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Think about that. God sent his only Son to earth to die for us. The God who knows whatever has happened, whatever will happen, he knows what wrongs you've done in the past. He knows what wrongs you'll do in the future. He knows every soul that ever existed. He knows every soul that will exist. And still, he loved every single one of us, even those ones that we may have trouble forgiving. He loved every single one of them so much to send his own Son. Who are we to say, I can't get along with that person? Like, what a slap in the face of God that we can say, I just can't do it. I can't forgive that person, when God gave so much for us. He sent his Son to establish the church. The church is not for the benefit of God. The church is for us. Look around you. These are your sisters. This is your family. These are those people that on hard days you can go to. Like, he gave so much for us. We need to do the same for him. So let's turn to 1 John 4. We're going to start in verse 19. 1 John chapter 4. If we love him we love him because he first loved us. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he hath seen, how can he love God whom he hath not seen? And this commandment we have from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. God gave us that command. If we're going to love God, we have to love our brethren also. Thank you, ladies.